Students. Sorry, the request is to turn on the Spanish live stream from Phil.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll pass it on.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Welcome, everyone. Let's give just a second to get the Spanish live stream up.
Spanish live stream from Phil.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll pass it on.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Welcome, everyone. Let's give just a second to get the Spanish live stream up. I was hearing it back from you, Grace, the live stream, but I think I've got it. Just hear myself on a delay. That's what the delay is on the live stream, by the way. It's a few seconds. All right, awesome. I think let's move ahead. Welcome, day 7, if I'm counting correctly, of Petaluma Fairgrounds Advisory Panel, June 19th. Happy Juneteenth. Happy Father's Day. I've got to call my dad still. And really nice to see everybody. Happy to have you here for another short day online, 9 to 12 today. Just as a reminder right off the bat that you haven't lost the hours as a panel that we missed by going online this weekend. We've mentioned that before, but just so you know, I think we've calculated about 8.5 work hours that will be made up later on after July 11th, because that's when we have capacity to do it. But don't worry, those hours haven't been lost, either from your work or from your pay. Let's see, a few other things just to get started here. Back to my notes. Yeah, we're going to be mostly in small groups today, which is great because we've spent a ton of time so far on the panel in the large group, lots of information. You have gathered just an enormous amount of information through a variety of sources. There's going to be a bit of that still this morning, where you're going to take a first look at some of the themes from the equity survey. And we'll talk more about that, or Alex will talk more about that in a moment. But most of the day after that will be spent in small groups, continuing to work on principles, looking at everyone's principles that you all sent in yesterday. And by the way, thank you for your flexibility with all things related to Zoom. We're not fans of it either. And we really appreciate you doing this with us. You're going to look at the principles that everybody sent in and look at gaps, look at themes that are emerging and gaps. Maybe there are things that nobody has suggested yet. We didn't have an end of day survey yesterday, so we didn't get direct feedback, but there will be another one today. So please stick around again at the end of the day for that. So wonderful. Thank you so much for virtually everyone sticking around last time and doing that. The researchers really appreciate it. We appreciate it by proxy when we get the summary, and helps us improve. And we'll mention what those improvements are the next time we meet based on your feedback. Again, we don't see anyone's actual surveys. We just hear sort of the themes that come from them. So please be as honest as you'd like to be. I would like to very quickly, well, first let's just see if there's any questions about anything generally this morning. Anybody have any questions about anything, first of all? Not seeing any hands, but moderators, if you can help me sort of scroll through the screens of faces here in case I miss anybody who's raising their physical hand. Awesome. Just like to invite a quick little general discussion of yesterday's brainstorming activity. So you worked on brainstorming principles and also site uses. Collaborated with each other in small groups to identify sort of what was a principle, what was more of a use. How was that? I would just love some feedback on that. How was that? It's the first time we've done exactly that kind of thing in that way. And any questions or thoughts about sort of dividing things into principles or site uses. Oh, I see Eric G.
Yeah, I thought the principles and options went well. My only comment is, as far as information gathering, there's a major issue with what we've been told by attorneys, conflicting information. I'm no closer to understanding what's possible and not possible than I was from day one.
Thanks for that. I'll say this always happens in processes like this, where folks who may come with very different information, and I hope that you are continuing to try to suss that out, and we'll continue to have opportunities for you to try to find additional information that may help you with that. Let's go to Jackie.
Yeah, so about the principles and options, I found it interesting, right? Sort of the way different people think about it and how vague or how specific some of those things should be or can be. I know that we had some deep discussion about that in our group. I just found it to be sort of an interesting phenomenon, the way people think about it, and sort of encourage openness about that.
That's interesting. I wonder if you'd say a little bit more about what, so there's sort of a variety of like how specific folks were being about principles. And it seems like you're saying that sort of wasn't a problem. You just discussed that and that was an all right thing.
Yeah, it definitely, I wish we'd had more time with it because it did take a lot of discussion time, but I thought it was good discussion to have.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. From our perspective, either it's more specific or less specific is all good. And I'm so happy you'd like more discussion because that's a big part of today. That's great. Okay. Lena.
I would echo what, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Is it Jack or Jackie? Jackie?
Jackie, the way it's spelled.
Jackie.
I also go by Jack, so it doesn't matter.
Okay. I echoed what Jackie says. It was very, very helpful. And I thought it was so helpful to be able to separate the principle and the options, and kind of it helps us organize our thoughts as a group, and for myself personally.
Oh, awesome. That's great. Great to hear. We got great feedback from moderators yesterday, incidentally, that they were really excited about being able to like do a thing properly in groups, and yeah, more of that today. Awesome. Well, yeah, any other thoughts or just in general, any other things that are on people's minds this morning?
That one's a pretty big one. I mean, that one's a pretty big one. I would have to agree that it kind of like put me in my tracks that now it seems as though, and maybe I'm just negative and misinterpreting it, but it seems like there's some kind of big old bone of contention out there between these two groups that we don't really know about. And is there any way that the city hall is going and the 4DAA are going to really like, cooperate? Because maybe I'm just confused, but it seemed to me that they were all like in direct, almost animosity as far as their positions against each other. Or maybe that was just me, because it seems like we're just all like trying to put differences aside or what have you and come up with something. But are our parties involved really of the same mind? I hope I'm not just, I hope I'm just negative.
Let's go to Eric.
Yeah, I think I question motives. I know everyone wants the best out of this process, and I kind of agree. I think there's, with what Brian said, not sure who to believe. We've had a lot of people speak to us who seemed pretty open and neutral, but those two particular parties tend to contradict each other.
Let's go to Jared here real fast. A couple more minutes here.
All right, sorry about that. I didn't mean to raise my hand. I was giving a thumbs up. It just seemed, yeah, I like what Brian said. It seemed contentious. And it could have just been, was it Brian Sobel? Could have just been him, but I can't find his name. But that's the feeling that I got too, that there was a lot of animosity between each other.
Let's go to Tina.
Which may be why there's a lot of turnover
Hmm.
between those two parties.
Well, I suspect that the reason we're here is because of what Brian expressed there. I mean, that's why we've been pulled into the picture, and our ability to really be neutral on our position going forward, I think is just so important. Anyway, it's interesting talking to people in the community about the whole thing. People are very, very passionate about keeping the fairgrounds. That's, the feedback I've gotten from speaking to individuals in the community in the several days. So, thanks.
Let's go to Glynis here, and that may be all we have time for right now, although this discussion will no doubt continue. Glynis? Oh, Glynis, I'm having trouble hearing you. Is that true for anybody else? Okay. Glynis, something seems to be up with your microphone. Not sure there.
Can you hear me?
No, it's really faint. It's really faint. Let's come back to you another time. Maybe you can help fix that. Let's go to Liz for a final comment here then.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, listening to what Eric G said about that, you don't know who to trust kind of thing. And it sort of echoes back to, if you watch different news sources, that it's like you take in everything you're given and you kind of have to decide, all right, well, this guy kind of seemed a little bit more trustworthy to me, or this seemed a little bit more based in truth. Like, at least that's just my interpretation of it all. I'm not saying everybody's being a salesman, but they are trying to sell us something here, and they all have their own motives. And so, yeah, they're going to present their best options and best ideas to you. And I think there's always going to be something we don't know, and that we're never going to feel fully satisfied in knowing everything. And all we can kind of do is just take what we have and sort of hope that our instincts and our own experiences and intuition and intelligences help us.
Got it. Cut out for me just there at the end. Thanks, Liz. All right. Thanks for all those comments, everyone. Much more to be had there. Let me turn it over to Alex, though, for the next piece here today.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. Good morning, everyone. And thanks for that conversation. This is maybe a good opportunity to remind you all of the cognitive biases activity we did at the very beginning. And one of those biases is, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but the bias of never feeling like we have enough information to make a decision. That's certainly one that comes to mind for me a lot in these processes, something we have to struggle with. So thank you for that. So I am going to talk about kind of a new component of information that is available to this panel. We recognize that obviously, the way you were all selected is an intention, or comes out of an intention to make our public discourse more diverse, more representative of the many diversities within our communities. We've talked previously about how power dynamics and privilege operate in group settings within the space. And we're also keenly aware that when we host kind of public participation exercises, like even the community exchange that you all hosted a couple weeks ago for 3 hours on a Saturday afternoon. You heard from the kind of folks who had time available and space in their lives to come, show up for and volunteer their time. And that can be a skewed sample, and much of our public discourse kind of gives extra privilege to people who have more space, feel more welcome in, or more time, folks who feel like, they've always been included or had a space in our city hall, public forums. And we want to make sure that we're also reaching out actively to communities that have been underrepresented, who faced systemic exclusion, who are left out of these conversations typically. So that's a little preamble to introduce a survey that we've talked about a couple of times now, that really prioritizes hearing from those communities in Petaluma and what they have to say about the future of the Fairgrounds property. So we have been distributing this survey for a couple weeks now to community organizations in the area. And my screen is getting glitchy. I just want to make sure that folks can hear me.
Yeah,
okay,
we can.
Okay, thank you. We've been distributing this to community organizations that particularly work with and serve marginalized and underrepresented communities in the area. They've been sending it to their members, and we've collected those responses for you in just a first batch for today. You will also see the survey is open for the month of June, so you'll see another round of responses on July 2nd. And what I want to share with you today is kind of just a snapshot, a very simplified snapshot of the responses we've gotten. And the full survey results, we'll make sure that you have a link to on the website, and I believe Casey will be putting it in, can put it in the chat as well. So this is just kind of an initial snapshot to see some of what those communities are saying about this topic. So I'm going to share my screen. And first I'll just show you, this is what appeared on our website when folks opened up the survey. Specific invitation to intent to gather the voices of communities who've been left out of Petaluma's public conversations, and a request for only folks who identify with the community that's experienced underrepresentation or exclusion to respond. We also, in the spirit of supporting people and paying for folks' time, offered a $10 Visa gift card for filling it out. And the survey was extremely simple. It uses the framing question that you all have used for this whole process and breaks it just down into its component pieces. So what experiences would you like to have at the Fairgrounds? What activities, what resources, and what places? Very broad, open-ended. And we will, in the full data, you can see exactly what kind of, most of these are probably site use options. So this will be available to you in its full form for you to peruse individuals' answers. But I kind of just want to give you a snapshot using a different format right now, which is a word cloud. We've got about 8 slides here, each focusing on a specific demographic group that tends to be underrepresented. We've got five demographic groups based on race and ethnicity, and folks who are currently unhoused, folks who experience a disability, youth, and folks who have some schooling, but no high school diploma. So I'm going to show you a word cloud for each of these, and just take it in, kind of take some notes on impressions, information you're gleaning from just what's most important, what words were most used in these groups' responses to the survey. This first one, we got 12 responses from folks who identify as Asian or Pacific Islander. I'll give everybody just about 30 to 45 seconds on each slide to read quietly. Yeah. Oh, that would be great. And for anyone who's comfortable accessing a link to the full survey results, no need to do that, but Casey is going to drop the link in the chat. Okay. And next we'll see what we heard from our 21 respondents who identify primarily as Black or African American. All right. Next, let's look at the 16 responses from folks who primarily identify as Hispanic or Latino, Latina. Okay, we'll move to 9 responses from folks who primarily identify as Native American or Alaskan Native.
Tampoco. Ah.
All right. Now let's look at 5 responses that we've received so far from folks who are currently unhoused. All right. Now, a group of 9 folks who have had some schooling but no diploma, no high school diploma. Okay. Youth, folks ages 16 to 24. We got 14 responses so far. Here's what they had to say. All right, and last but not least for this piece, we received 12 responses from folks who experience a disability. Okay. I hope that gave folks just a little bit to let those responses and just main themes sink in. Again, this is an overly simplistic way of viewing this data, so please also check out the full survey results, and we'll be coming back to you with more responses in July, and we'll make sure to have those printed as well. If we were in person, we would just be looking at the printed data, but I think for the screen, this is the manageable way of viewing so much information. And we have just a few minutes here. I wanted to open it up for any comments or thoughts about themes that stood out to you from those word clouds. Anything surprise you or really, striking you as important? And I want to especially invite folks who haven't participated as much this weekend to raise your hands. We just have a few minutes for this piece. Glynis, I know we couldn't get to you before, so I hope your audio is good now. Go ahead and unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, great. I noticed that Fairgrounds was not large on any of these clouds, which I found interesting. And I didn't even see it mentioned on the Black and African American cloud, nor on the Native one. And I just wonder how many times something needs to be said to be listed, because Bono was listed on the Native one. And I can't imagine that like our Native community is all super stoked on Bono. Just seemed odd.
Yeah, I think based on the sample size, you know, one person was, I think, all it took to get a word on there, maybe just not enlarged. Okay, let's just take a couple more comments. One from Tina.
Yeah, I noticed that I only noticed the word evacuation on one of the selections, and that was on the disabled panel. I didn't see evacuation on any of the other ones, so I thought that was kind of interesting. Thanks.
Thanks, Tina. All right, we'll take another comment from Lena.
Oh, thank you. I know I spoke already, but I was just so moved to see the words presented that way. The AAPI, I'm actually crying. It was just so amazing to see the Asian Pacific Islander voices presented so beautifully. I know we're just 12 people, but we're so invisible in this community. And there's something about the way it's not data, you know, it's like a heart. That's what it felt like to me. People's wishes and dreams, and to see other communities, Native American communities, you know, they want to be, there's the word community stood out to me as a really strong theme. And of course, there were a lot of things, you know, specifics in between, but I just appreciated that exercise, that I didn't realize how it was going to be presented. And it made me think that's such a powerful way to engage the community if we understood how it's going to be presented. Yeah, so thank you for doing that. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Lena. All right, wonderful. Well, thank you all for taking some time for discussion there. It's nice to hear voices in the large group a little bit. And now we're going to pivot to a different component here of the day, but your primary component today, which is reviewing, and absolutely connected to what you just saw. Please hold that in mind and bring your notes and thoughts from that that information you just took in into now reviewing and getting to work more and identify gaps in your principles brainstorm that we started yesterday. So Lynn, would you like to say a little bit about the sticky wall and what we're doing next?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The sticky wall is one of my favorite things. It was one of the biggest disappointments from this weekend was to not be able to use the giant sticky wall. It sort of makes everything into a Post-it note is basically the idea. Would you like me to just walk with my laptop over there to show folks what it looks like in person? Yes, that'd be great. It's so much fun. I hope you have fun with it when we come back on July 2nd, or if you come to the room this afternoon. It's, you know, a giant piece of blue sort of plastic-ish that gets sprayed with sort of sticky stuff, and you can pick things up and move them around. And you all will be working directly with it to move sort of like principles together, like with like, to put them in sort of themes, and you'll be sticking and unsticking things from the sticky wall quite a bit coming up. So I hope you enjoy it. It sits in a drawer in our office for most of the time, and this is the first time we brought it out since 2019 or whatever. So fun to see it again. Deb, Deb, do you have a question? Do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's an itinerary for today, because I know what's happening. So I was wondering if we could just kind of know what the day's going to look like.
Yeah, Tara, sorry, I got totally distracted on being excited about the sticky wall. Yes, so basically the idea for today is really simple. First, we're going to take a few minutes, kind of like we just did, and page through all the different slides of your principles from yesterday. We've had to rewrite some of them just to make them in bigger print so they could be seen, but they're all still the same. And they're not in any kind of order. They're all random. You're going to look at those. I'm going to sort of tell you to look for a couple of specific things as you're looking at them. And then you're going to go into small groups, have a discussion, very similar to yesterday. The goal today is just to look for gaps, look for things that nobody has mentioned, most of all, and also start to look for themes. Then we're going to take a break. We're going to come back into small groups, and you're going to talk about themes. What are the main themes you're seeing? And then we're going to get those back. We're going to record all of those in the large group here and put those onto the sticky wall to help you, to help make it a little easier to organize principles under these different themes. And then at the end of the day, we're going to do subcommittees, as I talked about. But basically, that's it. Pretty simple, looking for gaps, looking for themes. All right, super. Alex, any chance that you could share the images and go through them? Actually, and I teased that I was going to mention a couple other things to look for, but I guess I just said that. Look at what surprises you, of course. What themes are emerging? As I said, you see things that are similar or different to principles that you put down. Things that where you may want to link up your principle with another one that you see there. And most importantly, for this next section, what's missing? What are you not seeing as we go along? And we know folks are going to read at all different speeds. So no worries. Just, if you're done sort of looking at all the different things, then just take some time to sort of think and take a few notes about what you're seeing for the discussion a little bit later. All right. Getting a little bit of feedback here. I think it was coming from, okay, I think we've got it there. So yeah, we're going to take just about a minute, and your moderators can bring these back up so you can look at them. Also, you'll notice in the upper left-hand corner here, there's a little number where it says Principles 1. There's going to be 12 of these slides. So take a note of which slide, if you'd like to come back to one of the slides, take a note of which number it is. All right. And yeah, we'll just take another little bit here and then move on to the next one. Greg, you're raising your hand. Go ahead, Greg. Unmute yourself if you would.
Sorry, I wasn't raising my hand. Sorry.
Oh, okay, thanks. No problem. All right, let's go to the next screen. All right, let's move to the next screen.
Lynn,
Yeah.
I just want to say a number of these cards are almost, if not impossible to read because the print is small and it kind of runs together, at least, you know, from my viewpoint. So I just wanted to point that out. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that. Appreciate that. Let's see if we can zoom in on it a little bit more. Pause for
Yeah. Give me
technology.
1 second. Yeah, let me see if I can get it full screen. Sorry, I think this might be all we can do now, but we can. It's a little bit bigger, and we'll see if we can get it even better in small groups.
I think it unshared.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's a little bit bigger.
A little bit bigger. Again, moderators will be able to share these in your small groups and can zoom in to various pieces.
Also, if you're on a tablet or a phone, you can also drag and also zoom in with your fingers probably on your screen, depending on your version of Zoom. And Alex can as well. Whoops.
Sorry.
Oh.
Whenever I try to do that, it's terrible.
All right.
I'm gonna not try.
Little motion sick. Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, my bad.
No worries.
Sorry.
All right. I'm muted. Sorry, Alex, let's go to the next screen. And what I just said was, don't stress if you're having trouble reading some of the smaller words or just reading through all of it right now. This is certainly not the last time you'll see this, not today, and definitely not in the future. All right, let's go to the next slide. 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 And this is the last one. All right, there were fewer on this one, so I think we're good there. Thanks, everybody. No, that's not perfect always, but hopefully that gave you an idea of what your fellow panelists developed yesterday, and you've been taking a few notes about what you see is missing and what you see as some common themes. So we're going to start this next small group with talking about what's missing, but then after the break, we'll go to themes. Now, the themes might help you identify what's missing, so feel free to bring them up, but we'll try to identify what's missing, and if there's something missing, write a new principle that might help cover it. Whether it's something, again, whether it's something that you personally believe or not, even just to get all the principles out there that you feel like you've heard or that are represented on the panel here. That's the point of this activity. We're still in a non-judgmental zone here. And the idea is to not debate the content of what the principles are, but instead to just help each other write the best possible principles, even if you're helping somebody work on a principle that you don't agree with. That's the point of what we're doing today. Don't worry, lots of time for you all to make decisions and judgments coming up. But the first step on that is just getting everything on the table. All right, any questions? Go ahead, Alex.
Oh, just to add something, I see a couple folks in the chat saying that maybe their principles didn't make it on the board. And I apologize if that happened to anyone. I did just see we got a couple of you are night owls and sent them after I had gone to sleep last night. And we didn't recapture any from email this morning. So we'll just, while you're in small groups, make sure that, any that trickled in after midnight will get up on the board. And if you're concerned that maybe they didn't reach us, feel free to text or email them again. That's also can be part of this gaps analysis.
Awesome. I think, Grace, let's start the small groups. And moderators will send you a time revision for this.
Okay, opening the rooms.
Oh, I think I was muted. Grace, could you